I'm ready.
Just want to make sure you're ready, brother.
Show me the money.
Oh, you didn't know?
Every day I'm hustling. Every day I'm hustling. Every day I'm hustling.
Put my shoes on, you wouldn't last a mile.
Summertime, wintertime, I'm on the grind. Yeah, I got the ring, I'm the champ, I'm the Judy of the lamb.
This is the gift I was given, so I just live by my hustle.
My pocket, it don't make sense, but don't make a profit. So I hustle, ladies and homies. Make money, money.
It's hard out here for a pill. Really tryna get this money for the real.
I want to find a thing to save my life, so I hustle.
It ain't over for me. No, it ain't over for me.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.
Show me the money!
Okay, let's go smoke that joint.
What up, Fantasy Football Hustler back at you with another Hustler interview. We're also going to be breaking down a bunch of rookie running backs. Sorry about the confusion on the time. I know that there's a bunch of people in here right now. Thanks for sticking with us. Before I get started and bring out our special guest, I want to remind everybody, make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit the like button, hit the bell, get the notifications. If you're not watching this on YouTube, make sure you go over there, smash the subscribe button. Just go do it now. Get it out of the way. Watch on YouTube. If you guys are looking to get in any kind of fantasy football dynasty league, make sure you go get signed up on my Patreon. Go search fantasyfootballhustler.com. It'll get you to all my links. Go follow me everywhere on all platforms, social media, and all podcasts. Now, without further ado, let's bring him out here. Smitty, someone who has been creating fantasy football content for longer than most of you guys have been playing fantasy football. So I'm super excited to hear about his come up. Let's welcome him in like the 420 crew always does.
What's up, man?
What up?
Sorry about the change in time and all that. As I said to you just right before we went live, I bite off so much more than I can chew half the time, and I usually can cram it in and figure it out, but I had a lot of things colliding at once, and I have a tough time saying no. I love talking football. I love helping other shows come up. I like debating thing, like I just love everything about it. That's why I chose to be in the industry. So I love it. I just say yes to too much.
Yep. Well, we'll pile some more on your plate for today. Appreciate you spending some time. Really appreciate it. And Eric up in the building said, what up? That boy Smitty shouting it out.
What's up, Eric?
And there we go. Stu, Hustler, and Smitty, my two favorite fantasy content creators. Appreciate that, Stu. You the man.
Atta boy, Stu.
Antonio, what up? And oh shit, Stu, good looking on the super chat, bro. Way to start that off right. Let's see if the momentum builds. Let's throw in some super chats for Smitty. Let's get it. Now, you've been in this fantasy football world like forever. Like I started playing in 2006 and you're already like doing your thing, way back when. What kind of guided the path and like got you just breaking into the fantasy football world initially? Like content-wise, not playing.
Content-wise? Okay, so yeah, I've been playing since, 90s, we're talking like 93, 92 before a lot of people watching were even born or they're in diapers. I started playing fantasy before I even really loved the NFL. So I have a unique kind of, I think, advantage of not really having that homer type mentality with any team, even though I'm in Arizona and I love the Cardinals and I root for the Cardinals. But, I started getting to know fantasy as I got to know the NFL. But I want to say about 2002, 2003, I just got tired of not seeing any content out there in March, April, May, and there weren't any calculators or tools. And I'm an innovative guy, in my genetics. So an entrepreneur at heart, in my blood. It's what my family does. They've always done that. I knew I wanted to do something innovative and creative. And so I started just like thinking, how can I innovate in the space of fantasy football where, there are no trade calculators, there's no, no mock draft simulators. And so I developed the first trade calculator, the first mock draft simulator that were instant based. There were a couple tools that you download, like the application and run like a real comp. You have to enter in your lineup and everything. Mine was instant based. You just grab a player. It tells you what I think. Don't do this trade. Hey, you're an idiot. Why would you do this trade? Or that's a fantastic trade. Why didn't you hit the yes button? I had all kinds of options when I first did it. I perfected over the years, and you can find that at my shameless plug, sleeperu.com. But that's the genesis of like how it all came together. Is I just got tired of talking with even my buddies and being like, hey, let's do our draft early this year, because there wasn't really dynasty back then either.
Yeah.
And they're like, do the draft early. People could get hurt. Like, why do you want to do football, or why do you even want to talk football here in March? And I just had this desire to have a year-round perspective. And so that was, 2003. Then I started going on CBS Sports Radio. It was then NBC Sports Radio, dropping bold predictions, started landing those, and it just kind of steamrolled into a product that currently now is sleeperu.com. And, I've been doing it ever since. And then recently, the last 2 years, I got into video doing the fantasy football show. So 2 different product lines, essentially, but, doing the same thing, just in written form and in video and audio.
Nice. Hell yeah. Antonio, thanks for the super chat. You the man, bro. And I like that you saw an issue and you wanted to fix it right away. That's one thing that I am all about. My son coming in, make sure to give me a news update.
Yeah.
But
she's like, your March just ran a 4.3840, Dad. Just want to let you know.
Love it. I like how you identified a problem, and instead of being someone who just bitched about it, like literally created your own lane, and that's dope. There's a lot of things right now that we're still missing in fantasy football. Like right now, I mean, I'm super heavy into IDP, and that was one of the reasons I wanted to start creating content in 2020 was just try to make my lane a little bit in IDP, bring something a little bit more to the forefront. And now it seems like there's a whole bunch more even than 1 year ago. But yeah, I like the entrepreneurship and how you just kind of created your own path there.
Yeah, I think COVID created a sense of braveness with people that they're getting on Zoom camera, with their kitchen in the background, and just kind of like open the door to people being able to try something. And so the industry is very saturated, but a lot of these people won't necessarily keep going with it, a year after, 2 years after. Like it's hard. Like the one thing I don't mind doing is sharing my blueprint of like how I've gotten where I've gotten. Because I like helping people, and I truly only believe I'm competing with myself. It doesn't matter how many people there are out there. You're going to watch more than one person on a video show, for example. So I'm not scared or worried about, promoting another channel. Like there are certain things you don't do as, when you have your show, like, you just bring everybody on it or whatever, but I don't mind talking up people or giving them, if it's well-deserved, shout out. I have people ask me to shout them out. I don't even know them. I'm like, no, but I'm not worried about that. It's the one industry I've seen more than anybody, but maybe Matthew Berry that I can think of that's been in it longer than I have, where you benefit from sharing the wealth. You benefit from collaborating, which wasn't even a word back then. And in the fantasy industry, but yeah, it's just something that, like, so one, I'm not worried about giving the blueprint because I like helping people. But number two, it's really, really hard to replicate what it is that I'm able to do because I go full steam ahead all day long. It's all that I do. I sacrifice a lot of my personal life too, which a lot of people don't talk about. And some of that's not even healthy, like when Matthew Berry came on my show last time, we talked about it. He was divorced. First divorce is because of his lifestyle. His being on call essentially all the time. It's wearing on a relationship. So not only is it hard to do physically and mentally to go through the grind of all day, on call, never turning it off type of analyst, but it's also wearing on your home environment. And, you got to try and put things in place to help keep you compartmentalized, and it's hard. It literally is impossible. You know, like I'm divorced. I'm now have another new Miss Smitty, and she's very, very appreciative, and she's very patient, but you know, she can still get pissed off by the way that I conduct myself. And the way I conduct myself is I calculated it. I work 110 hours a week on my brand. That's I always said like 80 or 90, but I never calculated it. So actually a couple weeks ago, I tallied it for a whole week just to see. And I was like, wow, you know, I'm definitely addicted to what I do. I love it, but that's a hard person to live with, Alex. It's a hard person to live with. I'm not an easy man to live with. I'm oftentimes the most disappointing man in my household because, well, it's just me and the cat. Oh, I'm surrounded by women, but my two daughters and Miss Smitty, you know, I've got to figure out a better way every year to, like, you know, dedicate more time to them, because I'm literally just constantly doing this, you know, breaking news, doing lives, doing interviews, doing everything. And just, you know, it's a nonstop thing. So it's hard. If anybody wants to do it full time, my advice to them is to just keep building up your side hustle. Don't focus on that. And when it gets there, if it gets there, you'll know.
Yeah, for sure. Great advice. I got kind of pushed into it. I got laid off in 2020, and everything with COVID, like, where the hell are you going to get a job anyways? So I just kind of started going full force with this, and I embraced the grind. Like, at one point, I think my peak was 73 videos and podcasts in a 30-day span. And I know what you're talking about, and I couldn't even imagine, you know, being in that grind for almost 20 years. So I'm probably going to be picking your brain about how you do make more time for your family, because I know I've pissed off my wife more than a few times.
Again, I don't know that I'm the guy to ask on that. Like, I struggle with it daily. I've kind of come to the conclusion that I can do my best, but this is who, you know, I am who I am. And who I am is a nonstop, you know, like I'm literally live more than pretty much anybody you'll find. I'm on Instagram live constantly. I go live on Instagram probably, if I had to say, like 1 to 2 hours a day minimum. Live on YouTube Tuesdays and Thursdays for 3 hours. And then that's the daytime show. And that's not including my nighttime lives, my mock draft lives, my video uploads that I do, try and do a video a day on YouTube, you know, all the podcasts. And I don't try to just repurpose all my podcasts too from ripped audio from shows. Like, I'll literally podcast separately too. So nice. It's, you know, I don't even have time for all the platforms, to be honest with you. Like, I should be tearing it up on Twitter, and I don't even mess with Twitter all that much because I just don't have time. And I'm a one-man band, and that's the way I like it. So
nice. That's awesome that you're a one-man band. I thought you might have a couple people behind you, but that's pretty dope and inspiring, because I know that you are doing a grip of stuff like all the time. I guess I don't have a beef with Twitter necessarily, but I guess when it comes to like getting stuff viewed, it seems like it's all sellers on Twitter, no buyers, if I could put it that way. Like, not people who necessarily want to take in the content, but people who are just creating the content.
Yeah, and you got to know your platform too. Like, Twitter is more of a like conversation, you know. And if you're just putting your video up saying view my video, no one cares, you know. Yeah. Like, and you get, and that's just the environment that Twitter is. So I've learned, you know, that you can't repurpose everything. You got to create for each platform. Every platform is different. Instagram is very, very different than IG. TikTok's very different than Instagram. Yet they share very, you know, a lot of the same, you know, similar types, you know, the reels and all that. But it's, you know, you just got to make sure you're creating content. And what are you really wanting to do with your content? What do you really want to provide people? You know, you just got to figure out what it is you're good at. If it's IDP, then you're in a good spot, because IDP is kind of lacking. Now, the amount of people looking for IDP is smaller, but you have a better chance of dominating the space because there's not as many people in the space. But, you know, whatever you do, grind, and what's up, Run Boys? Grind, and everything will sort itself out, man. You'll figure out what your niche is. You'll figure out what avenue or where your voice is, and you know, it'll go from there. You just got to listen to the responses, what's working, what's not working, and don't ever bite off more than you can chew, but always work hard enough to where you're not, you know, sitting back and it'll work out or it won't. If you got something, you'll be able to tell the people will respond. So,
yep. Hell yeah. What up, Rum Boys? The Give Me Money Network. What up? What up?
What's up, GMM? I'm playing with him in a league with our boy Jay and Justin, Clock Management, and Jay the Plug. They're creating a league with Darren Waller's in it. So I'm gonna beat Darren Waller by drafting him.
That's fucking dope. Hell yeah. Can't let him draft himself. Fuck that.
Hugh Jackson's in it. There's a lot of crazy T-Pain's in it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so we got a lot of good people in that league. That's gonna be a fun league.
Bogart, where the fuck you at, man? Where was my invite on that? Hit me up. And Stu, you the man. Super chat, smoking and watching two of America's Most Wanted. Tupac playing in the background in my mind. I like it.
Stu's light them up, man, on all avenues.
Nice. Rum Boy said we all in that league. Better make sure there's a spot for me. So one thing that I like is how you kept investing into yourself and even, I don't know if you kept going to school the whole time, but I saw that you got a master's in digital audience strategy. Tell me a little bit about that.
Look at you with the research. Yeah. So, I got a bachelor's a long time ago in psychology, and I use that in a lot of what I do. I have a psychology series on my channel where I talk about the psychology behind fantasy football, the order of questioning, like so many different awesome topics from my psychology days that I bring into fantasy football. Like, for example, if you've got 3 running backs, let's say you have Christian McCaffrey, Josh Jacobs, who I don't want, let's say, and that's true. And then let's say you have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and I'm coming to you and I want to get Clyde. Worst thing you could do is be like, hey, what do you want for Clyde? Because A, you're showing your hand. B, you're telling that person that Clyde's good. And even if, then you get to a point where it's like, okay, either you think you're better than me at fantasy football, or you believe that I might be better than you at fantasy football. Then you have 2 different avenues to break down there. Because let's say you're a young, inexperienced fantasy football player. Me asking about a player is going to scare you off because you don't want to be made to be the guy that gave up the guy and didn't understand how good and valuable he was. There's so many different ways to take this in psychology. So the order of what you do and how you roll out a trade offer is so critical, because if I ask you, Christian McCaffrey, what do you want for him? You're like, nope, he's my number 1 running back. Okay, Josh Jacobs, how about I go after Josh Jacobs? You're like, no, he's my number 2 running back. You've mentally, subconsciously, everything confirmed that Clyde Edwards-Helaire cannot be your 1 or number 2 ranked running back on your team. So it just opens the door to a more of a probability that you're willing to devalue subconsciously Clyde Edwards-Helaire, whereas before you would have maybe just been defensive and said, no, I drafted Clyde for a reason. Why do you want him? So there's so many different ways to spin psychology in it. So that degree, that degree's helped me with a lot of what I do, but I wanted to go one step further and just kind of make sure I have enough of a digital audience and branding experience and stuff like that. And I won't say that the degree is I pretty much feel like I knew everything that I learned in that program, but what that does is opens doors. I wanted to make sure that I had the proper education and experience to bring to the table for big deals, for potential mergers down the road, or getting hired on to do something for ESPN someday. And I don't know that I even want to do that, but I didn't want to stop. I just wanted to put everything in my tool belt and just kind of take it with me and have every option available to me. So that's kind of why I did continue to go to school, even though I work for myself and I don't really need the degree, so.
But yeah, gotta have the stuff on paper, for the big guys sometimes. I like everything that you're breaking down about the psychology, because the way that you approach the initial part of the trade could almost make or break the entire trade, literally in one message that you send out. And one thing that I like to do, I don't like to just go after one person necessarily, just because you never know where the person's actually going to go. So I actually throw out out of these couple players, who do you like least?
Yeah.
And I just to them, because sometimes the person that they like least is the person that I like most. And so it just works out a little bit. You got to figure out what's in the other person's head. That's for sure.
You got to know their needs too. Nothing worse than somebody offering you a trade where you literally are like, getting offered a quarterback and you don't need a quarterback. You're like, dude, are you even looking at my roster? Then you just don't like believe anything the person says or believe they're coming at it from any kind of like honest perspective. So you just got to make sure you know what the other owner needs. But like you said, asking what they want to do sometimes is better than telling them what you want to do. And you just got to make sure you don't play your hand out right in front of them, and just kind of take it slow and figure out what it is. You can get someone to confirm, like I said, through that sequence of no's that a certain player is really low in their mind. Like I've said no to all these players ahead of Clyde. And then the trick is like, so if I pretend that I don't even know you have Clyde and I'm like, okay, so you won't give me Jacobs. You won't give me Christian McCaffrey. Well, what other running backs do you have? And you're like, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You right there are opening the door subconsciously to being capable of trading them because you're offering them, like you're offering up the name. And then you start getting defensive because you're like, hey, why don't you want Clyde? I know what I'm doing when I scouted him. I'm good at this, and then you're wanting to basically get them to confirm that Clyde is worth what, you paid or what. So it doesn't always work. It doesn't just lead to a trade, but it puts you in the best position down the right path. And maybe you never would have got a deal done anyway, but the odds increase if you play it out a certain way with the order of what you do.
And I guess the way that you ask questions, it's almost like the person can talk themselves into it, whether you think they will or not. And even one prime example on a dynasty trade that I made still shocks me like right now, but literally just happened. It was right after the Carson Wentz news. I drafted Carson Wentz. And I think it was like in the 11th round or something. He just kept falling and falling because he hadn't been traded yet. And so I picked him up, and then I picked up Deebo Samuel like 2 rounds later. And there was someone who really, really needed a quarterback. And I didn't even know that he liked Wentz like that. And we started talking, and I was like, oh, I'm only going to move Wentz if it's for a running back. And he drafted Barkley and Chubb in the 2nd round. I didn't think there was any chance in hell that like Barkley would even be like in the mix. And as we start talking, I'm thinking about Chubb as we're talking. And he was like, so who are you talking about? You talking about Barkley? And as soon as he said that, my whole mindset just switched. I'm like, okay, well, if he threw it out there, I guess I need to try to go for this better guy somehow, some way, even though I didn't think that it was going to be possible. So if I would have just came out and said Nick Chubb, he probably would have just tried to sell me Nick Chubb and may have not have even offered Barkley.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the order is so important, and what I love to do, I do a lot of draft pick trading videos and training on that. Trading what I call kicking the can down the road, where you essentially take your, 3rd and 4th rounder and trade it for like a 1.12 or whatever. So you create a void, down in the 4th round because you've given away essentially a pick, and you almost have to give away a pick. You can't do you give me your 1st rounder and your 7th rounder, I'll give you 3rd and 4th. That's going to make someone be like, no, I don't want to do these kind of weird, almost like even type trades. If you go, I'll give you my 3rd and the 4th, like for free to move from the, the 1st rounder to my 3rd, that makes somebody more enticed to be like, wow, you're giving me a whole pick. And then they might do something they don't normally want to do. Then at that point, what's to say? Smitty has a real degree in psychology. That's why the counselor hates him. So probably true. But so you trade your 3rd and your 4th for a 1st, right? Now you have a void, though. You have a void in your 4th round. You're missing a pick. So the whole point of kicking the can down the road is you then trade your 5th and 6th for a 3rd, your 6th and 7th for a 4th. You keep moving the void downstream, and you're creating a bigger void. Like it's getting bigger. There's more picks, but you're pushing into an area where it's almost like, what? They're free agents that are potentially as good as some of the picks that I'm missing out on downstream. And so there's a time where you can get literally 5 picks in the top 18 by doing that aggressively. You got to do it aggressively. And then, you have 5 or 6 picks in the top 25, let's say, and no picks until like round 10 or 11. but you've kicked that can so far down the road, doesn't matter. You're missing 4 picks because you only have 6 picks in 10 rounds. But who cares when you've upgraded every single one of those players? Who you getting in round 10? They could compete. I feel like I can grab guys in round 10 that can compete with guys in round 7, round 8, round 9. I feel that way. So it's a great strategy. A lot of people love it. It's probably my most sought after content in the off season, the draft pick trading stuff. And it's fun, but you burn bridges. You also won't have anybody trading with you after about the 4th or 5th trade because you're causing chaos. And it's like, people stop talking to you about trades. But the one thing people come to me and say, I tried it, Smitty, doesn't work. And I'm like, how many trade offers did you send? Well, 2. Like, bro, you got to send like 8 per team. You have to hit them with massive amounts of offers in order for that stuff to work. So, and the great part about draft pick trading is when you're doing those 2-for-1s, you're not really putting yourself in any kind of awkward position of telling your hand or trying to go after a player that they like. It's draft picks. And all you have to do is get somebody to think for 1 second, I'm getting an extra pick. I'm getting an extra pick. They're vulnerable after, 8, 9 offers. There's going to be one that makes them waver. And then all you got to do is get that one. Then once the trade goes through, all your trade offers are pretty much void. And because that deal went through, which involved those picks, start over. You start offering another 8 offers per team, get the second offer to go through. Then all those offers will go away because you made the trade. You go through it as much as you can, just kick that problem down the road as far as you can. So that's one draft pick trading technique that I like to throw out there every year.
Yeah, and I feel like if you're doing something like that, you got to commit to it. Like one of the big things that I see is when someone starts to commit to that, and then they go back to like trading backwards, you know, instead of just like going super hard with literally trying to trade up, as much as you can.
Yeah, they panic and they're like, "Oh God, I don't have a 5th rounder." Like, big deal. You went down this road for a reason. Like, weren't you excited about it? Didn't you like the void? Didn't you like the challenge? Like, that's why I'm a big best player available person, because I could care less if I'm going wide receiver. Like, I love that challenge. I don't lose sleep at night and try and back out of that, trade a big name player to fill that. I got to get a running back. I don't care. Like, I like the challenge in that. I like trying to find a James Robinson, and a rookie and trying to fill my running backs up with that and then go wide receiver. Like, I'm not saying that's my favorite approach, but I love doing things like that.
Yeah, I got into 3 dynasty leagues so far that I started. I'm just trying different strategies in all of them. Just see what works and just have fun doing different things. All right, so let's talk about a thing you're really addicted to, the fantasy football show. Talk about some new stuff that you got going on, and yeah, I'm excited. It's been around for 2 years on YouTube now, right?
Yeah, I started. So I technically got into video in 2007 or 2006. I forget which year, but it was before YouTube was acquired by Google, and I was approached by YouTube and there were about 4 or 5 of us that were going to do a start bench show. So they said, we want you to do a start bench show. We'll feature you on the YouTube homepage on Sunday mornings. But this is back when YouTube was smaller. So it wasn't the exposure you think it would be. It was still big, but I started doing video then. But video back then was so hard. Like, you had to use like camcorders and like transfer. It was not even the same thing at all. So I did do video a little bit back then, but then I stopped and I just focused on radio. I'm on the world's longest running fantasy football radio show, which had a temporary interruption with COVID. So I'm not sure how we're going to even coin that anymore, because it was 23 years that this show has been on. No one has had a longer fantasy football radio show. It's on terrestrial radio on a dial. It's not on, a podcast or something. It's actual, CBS radio show. And so I've been doing radio. I've been doing all. And so for 2 years, this is going on year 3 of the fantasy football show. I just decided to create a new brand of video show, a live stream, video uploads. It's all accessible at smitty1.com. But I created that because, I felt like I'd done enough in the content space. I wanted to expand in the video space. I felt like there's an opportunity for it. I didn't know how well it would do. I didn't know how well I would do. I did radio for a long time. I figured I could translate it. I look back at my first videos and, I laugh. I think I laugh at videos a month ago. You always improve, I think. But I love doing it. I never thought I'd love it as much as I do. And it was probably the right time too, because for whatever reason, I didn't want to do it earlier in my career. I had so much on my plate. I didn't really feel like I had the space for it, but it just took off, man. And I put in so much time on the video stuff. That's probably why I work about 100 hours a week, is that, through this, I probably do about 40, hours of video a week, and, probably 60 hours of video a week and 40 hours of content. So I kind of just added another 60 hours to my plate by doing the video show. So, but yeah, the fantasy football show, you can find it at smitty1.com. And I'm doing the 3-hour every Tuesday and Thursday, 3-hour show. It's not just a live stream. I'm doing it like a network type quality show with news and call-ins and guests and everything you can think of. It's not just like reading the chat like I do it now. Like this live stream, this is awesome, and I do these live streams too. But this is like, I wanted to do something completely different. I built a different part of my studio so that it didn't get used unless it was during the show, so people could tell the difference and had a different feel to it. So real excited about that though, because I think that's going to be a big difference maker for my channel. And it's every Tuesday and Thursday for 3 hours a day.
Sweet. Well, if you ever need any guests on, let me know. I'm all about it.
Yeah, I will be at some point trying to get more people on. So once I get in a rhythm, I've got some regulars already, but we've got like a couple interns that even come on. It's good stuff. It's fun.
Nice.
Kind of pick on them.
Nice. All right. Before we get into Smitty's rookie running back list, let me just remind everybody again, make sure you go subscribe Fantasy Football Hustler on YouTube, on every podcast that's out there. Just go to fantasyfootballhustler.com and you will get to everywhere that you can find me on the internet. Made it nice and easy for you guys. All right. Okay. So I usually go from last to first. We're going to switch it up, and we're going to just start at number 1 with Travis Etienne. And I haven't seen anybody have him number 1. I mean, it's mostly just Najee. Explain why you got Etienne number 1.
He looks the part to me. I get Najee Harris is a good prospect. I feel like he could be a Marshawn Lynch type player, which is no knock on him at all. That's a 7 to 12 overall player every single year. I just feel like Etienne has maybe a little more risk, but probably higher ceiling to get above that kind of value. So you are paying a higher price. You're taking on a little bit more risk, especially if you're drafting now and we don't know the landing spots. I feel like both running backs are going to fall to good locations, but Najee Harris is probably a little bit safer to be a full-time running back. But I just don't see a world where Etienne he's going to go high. I think he could both could potentially go in the first round, but even if one goes in the first round, the other one's going to most likely get drafted high enough that the draft capital is too steep a price for a team that doesn't need the player to invest in the player. As you get into like the Chuba Hubbard range, which Chuba Hubbard's arguably my favorite running back of this draft class. He has that Alvin Kamara potential. But I feel like he has it's a tougher thing to imagine him falling into the right spot where a team knows exactly how to use him, like Alvin Kamara. And Alvin Kamara I had in my top 5 bold predictions of the year. He came out as a rookie, and I'll be honest, I got a little bit lucky that the Saints did use him like I'd hoped they'd use him. But I saw exactly what he produced. I saw that unfolding, and I see a similar talent and ability in Chuba Hubbard, but this time around, we got to make sure if we're going to start investing, high draft capital from a fantasy perspective, that he is in a spot like Kamara was in, because Kamara was used brilliantly and still is. And a lot of teams wouldn't use Kamara the way that the Saints used him. They would have just said, okay, this is a third down back. We're not going to give him all the work. We're not going to build our offense or structure things around him. Same thing with Antonio Gibson. Here comes in a running back that never really played running back. He's a Swiss Army knife type wide receiver. That does not work in the NFL. It doesn't. He's an outlier. The Washington football team, I always have to correct myself. The Washington football team knows how to use him, and they use him to perfection. And so situation's king. situation can make Javonta Williams the number 1 overall rookie in everyone's, rookie draft just by landing in the right situation. If he goes to the Steelers and Najee Harris goes to some kind of somewhat cloudy situation and Etienne goes to a cloudy, Javonta Williams is the number 1 running back. Like, these running backs are also good, but none of them are like locks to be the next Barkley. I think the true value, what makes this draft class, and I truly believe this, one of those draft classes that could be the best draft class that we've seen in a long time and ever will for a long time, is the wide receivers, Kyle Pitts, and the quarterbacks. The running backs are good. Landing spot could make them great, but they don't have that like Barkley feel.
Yeah, Barkley, Zeke, guys like that, they're going in top 4, top 5. Yeah, we'll see if any of these guys actually go in the first round. And shout out to Robbie Rum, boys. Yep, you do have Etienne, number 1 also. And it's just, I don't know what I like going against the grain a little bit. And I just think that Najee he's been a little bit extra hyped by everyone. And I don't know, just looking at his tape and everything, like, he's great, but I don't know. It's not as special as everybody's making him out to be.
Yeah, he's a little slower than you'd think, and not that he can't work on that or get better or improve. Like, obviously he can, but Etienne just fits the bill, man. He fits the. I know he's a little bit. He's like 205, 210 pounds. I'm not sure what he weighed in exactly. I think he's like 205, 210, but that's fine. That's perfect. He doesn't have to be 220. And if he's 215, 220 naturally, that, sure, that'd be better. But this is what makes him like Kamara is good for a reason. Like, there's certain his frame and everything it's perfectly fit for his style. And I think that Etienne, for his style of play, his ability to catch the football, be a really powerful running back between the tackles. Like, he looks bigger. When you see Etienne, he looks like he's 220. And sometimes the way a person is built can offset any kind of like actual number, like I use and I still believe in Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But Clyde, I don't care if he's smaller. I don't care if people say he's not super fast. He's very quick. His quickness left to right is unmatched in the NFL. Like, he's the quickest player in the NFL from left to right already. But he's not, as fast as some running backs when he's unleashed. But his skill set, the way he's built like a bowling ball. The way Etienne's built is perfect for his style of play. And if in the right spot, if Etienne goes to, you could say Miami, but Miami, the Steelers, the Jets, there's a couple places he could go. And if Wilson is in New York, I like whatever running. I like either Harris or Etienne in New York, because I think New York turns it around really quickly with Salah. They've got a lot of good things, I think, on the horizon, because it all starts with the quarterback. The reason the Jets struggle every single year, and the reason they're a black hole for every fantasy football player that's on that roster, is because of the quarterback position. And if they get Wilson, they have what I consider to be a top 5, top 6 quarterback of the future, and that's gonna turn everything around, just like the Buffalo Bills.
Yep.
Quick turnaround all around Josh Allen. And I think we're going to see that with Wilson. If they draft Wilson, if they trade out of that pick, which is possible, I don't know how much control Salah really has. Maybe the organization punts their future on this one. But if they take Wilson or Lawrence won't fall. But something crazy happens. You never know. Wilson will turn this franchise around. And I hope that one of these running backs is paired there.
Yeah. And Gimme Money says, I feel bad for any running back that's behind that Steelers line. Yeah, we shall see. Before we move on to the next guy here, Eric says, are they going to use CEH more next season? I have to think so.
Yeah, Watkins, vacated targets. If anybody watched Clyde Edwards-Helaire run the football last year, especially on those series of goal line runs where he got stuffed, it wasn't his fault. Like, the dude is impossible to tackle one-on-one. And it was a combination of bad play calling. He is a goal line back. I don't care what anybody tells me, because he failed under certain circumstances last year at the goal line. Everyone's a authority on his goal line potential. And he needs to be used at the goal line like he was at LSU. He needs to be used at the goal line that helps him get into the end zone on a shuffle pass, a draw, on a reception. Like, this guy is good in the goal line. He just needs to be utilized properly. And he is a between the tackles running back. Make no mistake about it. Go back and watch his film if you disagree, because LSU leaned on him in the third and fourth quarter in some of the most important games when the game was on the line against the best defenses in college football, against the best defensive players in college football, the guys that went in the first round alongside of him, and he made them look silly on a regular basis. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire, give Clyde a full offseason. Give all these rookies, Taylor, Clyde, all the rookies from last year, the running backs especially, give them a full regular offseason. They had a COVID shortened offseason where they couldn't learn pass protection. They couldn't get involved or get their hands too deeply into the PPR aspects of their team's game. Give them a full offseason. They got rid of Damian Williams. I think that the stars are aligning for him to have a big, big year. And he costs you, what, a 3.5 to 4.1 pick? The risk is baked in.
Yep. And it was weird at the goal line how they literally just kept running the same play. I swear, it was just that dive. Like, just right up the middle. They never changed from that. Super, super weird.
Yeah, and he had like I want to say it was 3 or 4 touchdowns called back in the year too. You know, Clyde was doing well. There were some categories like yardage wise, he was at one point like 3 or 4. You know, like he was doing well in a couple categories. He just wasn't getting touchdowns. Bad play calling. Could they phase him out of games? That's the real risk. The risk isn't Clyde's talent. The risk isn't Clyde's goal line potential. The risk isn't Clyde's TD ability to get in the end zone, his notes for the end zone. It's that, could he get phased out of the game? Now, yes, he could, but if they get him involved in the PPR game, if they make him a staple in the PPR game, then he's protected. He can't be game scripted out. And if Sammy Watkins is gone, not saying that that's like, you know, the determining factor of whether Clyde turns around. Sammy's okay. Somebody will absorb a lot of the targets, probably Mecole Hardman, probably a combination of Robinson and Mecole Hardman, but Clyde will be leaned on more. Reed does have a tendency to give rookies like more work heading into their second year. So we'll see what happens. And not everybody's, Kareem Hunt in that situation, but I like Clyde a lot. I like him a lot.
So one last question I got before we get into the next running back. What would you say if you just had to boil it down to one thing that is super important to you when you're scouting these rookie running backs? What would that be?
It's gut feeling to me. I know I use a lot of stats and data, but I would say a majority of what helps me make these bold prediction calls that I've been doing for the 18 years is kind of my niche or whatever, is just my gut, man, of watching these players. Sometimes I miss on them. Sometimes the situation kills the prediction and I'm like, God, I know I'm right. This sucks, and I'm wrong though, because ultimately it's my responsibility to read the situation, the talent, the injury possibilities, like everything. So it falls on me. And I take responsibility for all my misses, but it's gut instinct. And when I see Najee Harris, I see a Lynch, a guy that could be good. I don't think he could develop. Like I'm not, it's not an absolute, like he won't be a top 5 running back. He could definitely be a top 5 running back in the right spot though. I could change my tune and people say, oh, you're flipping back and forth. No, I'm making a prediction now before the landing spots, which a lot of people say, why are you making predictions about rookies when you don't know the landing spots? Because it's what I do. People are waiting for it, asking for it, drafting before. Some people draft all of the players in a dynasty startup in February. So I have to start predicting for those people. Not everybody lives in Bob's world where you do redraft only, So I have to cater to all these things. So right now, what I know now, based on talent and gut only and some historical college data, Etienne feels like the better shot, a little more risk, but the better shot of being a top 5 running back. Etienne feels 6 to 10. Now 6 to 10 is still good. 6 is right next to 5. So a good situation could turn Harris into a top 5 running back. But gut instinct tells me that Etienne, Buffalo. What if Etienne's in Buffalo? You know, will Buffalo use the running back right? I think they will if they have Etienne. And we'll see. We'll see. The landing spots will tell a lot. And like I said, Javonta Williams could climb to everybody's, including my number 1 overall rookie running back spot. It's the situation.
Yeah, and I hate the people who are like, yeah, why are you doing this so early and stuff? But it's just fun. That's all it is.
Yep. Another combine update.
Yep. Got to always bring in the news and make sure that I'm always updated. But yeah, I hate the people who are just like, oh, why are you guys drafting so early? All this stuff can happen. It's just because it's fun and we want to talk football. Like, what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
All right. So Najee, do you think he's going to be more of a Derrick Henry-ish guy who – I'm just using the comp because he's freaking huge and went to Alabama. A guy who doesn't really get too much work in the pass game. Like, is he going to be like a one-trick pony between the – obviously landing spot makes a difference, but I'm just want to get your thought about that. Is he going to be just an in-between the tackles guy, or you think he's someone who can handle getting receptions?
Yeah, he can. I mean, he can catch. He'll do fine as a PPR guy. I think all these running backs now, they're – like when you think about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, there was a big difference between PPR and non-PPR. And when you're especially looking at the running backs, now it's like even with Henry, he doesn't fall too far in a PPR only because he gets so much volume and TDs. Now, Derrick Henry's a whole nother topic. He's kind of, I think, riskier than people think heading into 2021, given the 2,000-yard season and what that does to the body. He's a different person, so you gotta factor that in and realize he's a beast, he's a monster, but you know, a lot of weight hitting the ground over and over and all this work between the tackles. Sometimes it happens like that, you know, and a lot of it has to do with that 2,000-yard season. Historically, making a running back not bring even close to the same numbers that following year. But I think Harris is going to be, I think he's going to be good. But again, it comes down to situation. If he lands with a team that's going to throw the football to him, look at Clyde. He landed in on a team where we thought he was going to get the football more than any rookie, and he didn't. So it's tough to know. What if he lands on a team that doesn't have a good quarterback? You know, if I like Harris in Miami for the long term, but I don't like Tua. I don't believe in Tua, and I don't know that's going to be a great PPR situation in year one for Harris. So there's so many factors at play. I think Etienne's more built to be a PPR guy right away and be more protected if he gets in the right spot. But Javonta Williams, you know, is a guy that I think gets overlooked a lot when he could be the number 1 in the right spot if he went to Pittsburgh or, again, Miami's going to be good long term and pretty decent short term, but there's just some opportunities elsewhere that give that PPR perspective, you know.
Yeah, for sure. And then let's just jump right into Javonta because, I mean, everyone's heard about Najee. Someone who is being a little bit overlooked, a bigger workhorse guy, plays for North Carolina, though. So is that one of the reasons why he's being pushed farther down the boards?
On who? On which one?
On Javonta.
I don't know why people are pushing Javonta down. I think he could be a climber really quick. Like if you remember, Jonathan Taylor climbed boards fast. He wasn't everyone's number 1 running back, and then all of a sudden he was, and it was really quick. And it was like, you know, everybody was real excited. Then Clyde landed in KC, and then KC, you know, he turned into everybody's number 1. But, you know, Javonta Williams has an opportunity to climb real fast. We'll see. And it's just, you know, it's just one of those things where these receivers like Jamar Chase and Devonta Smith, Kyle Pitts at tight end, the 2 quarterbacks, they're going to be good regardless, no matter what. It's the running backs. There will be 1 or 2 really, really good, like potentially 2 top 12 running backs and 1 top 6 to 10, at least top 6 to 10 running back from this draft class. But we don't know the answer until the landing spots. It's just kind of one of those years. There just isn't. They're all very, very good. Like Chuba Hubbard, I keep going back to Chuba Hubbard. He could be the best running back in this draft class if he lands in the right spot. If Chuba Hubbard lands in a place where they're going to use him like Washington uses Gibson, they understand Gibson, they feed Gibson, they give him the opportunities on the ground, through the air, touchdown opportunities, then Chuba could be the number 1. Like it's just that crazy. Carter could be, you know, a top 2 running back if he's in the right spot. What if Chuba Hubbard goes to Arizona? That's a place I see Chuba Hubbard maybe sliding to, and he could either not get used right there, or he could be a monster. It's tough to know, but I like him in a place where he can climb and be the top running back. I'd rather Chuba be in maybe a little bit more cloudy situation that he can take advantage of and create his own destiny if the offense is built good enough to use him. Like I want him to go somewhere where the offense could support his play once he gets the shot. I don't want him to go to a place where there's an opening, but they don't have the offensive support to make him into a Kamara.
Yeah, and Chuba, I mean, he's someone who I'm super interested in because I don't follow, I don't watch as much college as I should, but Chuba, I know in 2019, freaking almost 2,100 yards, 21 touchdowns, balled the fuck out. But during this COVID, ridden 2020, he didn't play as much. And did he get hurt or did he opt out? He
got hurt and then he opted out to save himself and be healthy for the NFL. So a lot of people are going to, look at his stat line and not realize he opted out a part of it. And I think it, him doing that, it didn't help his draft status. But I think with Chuba Hubbard, like Kamara, it's just going to come down to one team's got to buy into him. One team has to draft him and say, we know the talent's there. We're not going off of, one stat, one year of where he supposedly did bad. Like he still looked good at times. And I think, you got to look at 2019 if you're going to evaluate Chuba Hubbard and to understand his potential. Because I don't think any talent dropped off. I'm not worried about an injury. The dude's got what it takes to be an elite running back at the NFL level if used properly. But I can't stress enough when I say that he's my favorite running back in this draft class that I can't draft him there. I certainly know the risks, and it's a 50-50 chance at best that a team drafts him like Washington, not Washington drafting him, but like a team like Washington that understands what they have, instead of saying, oh, we got a guy that we like on third down. Like that's not gonna make him into a star. He needs to go somewhere someone goes, this it could be Alvin Kamara. And then that's gonna have an opportunity.
Hell yeah. These coaches need to get a little, we're seeing now a little bit more than ever that they are starting to adapt things for players specifically instead of just trying to run their playbook, the exact way that they wrote it. So yeah, hopefully Chuba does go to a good spot because I really want to see him get out there after a shitty 2020 season. All right, so you're 5 and 6, and you just got him at both at number 5. You got Michael Carter and Trey Sermon. Let's talk about Michael Carter first. Where do you think where do you think he could end up, and why do you got him in your top 5? He's a beast from Ohio State for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he's just, I hate to say the same thing over and over, because it matters if a team buys into him. Like we know Etienne's going to find a starting job. We know that Najee Harris is finding a starting job. Past Javonta Williams, the top 3 running backs, we don't know. Trey Sermon could land in a really cloudy situation, or he could land in Pittsburgh, where he could be the lone starter or something. So Sermon is one of those guys that I feel like is very undervalued. Even my own mind, like when I'm talking about him, I'm telling you, I'm undervaluing him. Like he's got a lot of power. He's got that power and size and ability to just run people over. And I think get better. He can get better at other aspects of his game that might be, maybe lesser in the reason why people overlook him. But if he's in the right spot, I like him a lot. If a team, drafts him to back up another, the thing about the running backs is 10 years ago, 4 running backs would go in the top 40,
Yeah.
And now one goes in the top 30, maybe. That's, some years you won't have anybody go in the first round a running back. But if 1 or 2 go in the top 40, 45, the draft capital and the investment, the cost of investing is so low that a team like the Panthers could draft Sermon because he could fall to a place where it's a no-brainer and they don't like the other options on the board. And when a player is your number 1 on your board and you're in the 3rd round, 4th round, whatever, you don't care if you are drafting a running back at that point. So he could go to a place like that, and that's my fear. But Sermon in a potential starting role, I like a lot. Same thing with Carter. Carter had, what do you have last year? 1,245 rushing yards. Led the nation in carries of 15 yards or more. So he's a big play potential guy. I like Carter a lot. And the same thing though, and he's a little bit smaller. Size wise, he's not much smaller than Etienne, but he's shorter. So, I don't know how teams are going to view Carter as a full-time guy. Like it always sucks when you like a guy like Chuba Hubbard or you like a guy like Carter, and then you see a team come out and say, yeah, they could be a good third down back or something. And you're like, oh my God, they're just going to ruin this player's value. And I feel like sometimes fantasy worlds know how to scout a player's potential end outcome better than some, teams, because we look at what's most likely to produce on a amount of points and production that you can only do if you can do the other things. So sometimes I wonder what how an organization would benefit to have some fantasy football minds in the scout room, because we look at it from like we like reverse engineer it, like what could happen at the end, and then that tells a story about how good the player is going to be on all the other facets and levels. So Carter could be a beast, Sermon could be a beast. This draft class is loaded with guys that have that like 10 to like 18 overall value in fantasy. It's just a matter of like which three of them are going to land in good spots.
Yep. And Stu said, Smitty, I know your answer. I'm a member and watch all the time. As a proud manager of Lamb in all of 3 Hustlers dynasty leagues, and Judy in 2 of 3, please share your thoughts on them, please.
Yeah, you got 2 guys I love. I mean, Lamb, I feel so. My breakout wide receivers last year were DK, AJ Brown, and in all fairness, I had Hollywood Brown as a breakout too, but DK and AJ Brown are in that top 5 club. Like maybe they finish 7. Like you're talking about like 10, 15 point difference, maybe between 5 and 7 or whatever. But Lamb, I'm putting in my top 5 this year. I'm not drafting him there. You don't need to draft him there. You can draft him as a wide receiver 2 or 3. In some cases, it depends on your league. Sometimes in my mock drafts, Lamb goes to he goes at like 2.08. I'm like, what are you guys doing? You're ruining his ADP, because we're high on him, and communities will share opinions, right? Especially when you go on a show and you pump somebody up. So I think in a real world outside of our mock draft community, he's still going in like 3-4, round 3 probably. But I think the hype, like AJ Brown's, going to climb, and you're going to see him go like at the top of round 3. And if he breaches the second round, I'm going to be pissed, because I want that AJ Brown and DK Metcalf ceiling value, and I think Lamb could outperform late second round value, but I don't want to be messing around with that. I want him at 3rd, 4th round value so we can explode and win you a league. But Lamb top 5. Judy needs a quarterback. Mark my words, if Denver maneuvers into a good quarterback situation, everyone's going to pretend they love Judy as a top 10 to 12 wide receiver. The dude's got to catch the football. I get that. He's working on some things. Nobody's perfect coming out. But a lot of guys had drops. Adams, a lot of good wide receivers had similar drops to Judy. But Judy's a phenomenal route runner. There are NFL D-backs that have been interviewed that have said that the hardest player to guard in the NFL is Jerry Jeudy. And that's coming off a rookie year. So Jerry Jeudy has got a lot of things he's going to do in the coming years. And not every receiver is going to produce like Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb did as rookies. It just doesn't happen. Situation's got to be perfectly aligned with that player, with that kind of talent, that ready-made talent. I think Jeudy had it, but he didn't have the situation. So he's a great guy to go trade for now, because he's got top 10 wide receiver potential, but you won't even have to pay near top 10 wide receiver value.
Yeah, just needs that quarterback. Just needs someone throwing him the rock. All right, Trey Sermon. So he was the one from Ohio State. I said Michael Carter and Ohio State, but yeah, Trey Sermon's the one who went to Ohio State, and I've seen him a little bit higher on people's boards compared to like Michael Carter. You got him like right back to back. Another big guy, over 6 feet, 215 pounds, big bruising back. You think that where do you think that he is going to land?
Sermon?
Yeah.
Well, like as I alluded to, I think, it's guesswork at this point. Like I'd just be pulling it out of my ass, man, to tell you a name. These guys will fall so far that any team is capable of taking him, any team. And I wouldn't be shocked at all if he was drafted to like the Panthers to back up Christian McCaffrey because they lost Mike Davis, and Sermon would be a fantastic backup. And while everybody that loves Sermon's going to go crazy and go, what are you talking about? He's a starting running back. The NFL, these coaches won't see it that way. Most likely he could be that guy. Like Clyde popped up and became, a star like that because no one saw teams viewing. Like I loved Clyde, but even I didn't think a team would view him as the number one overall running back. So Sermon all it takes is one team. If Miami says he's the guy and they draft him in the first round, that can happen. Anything can happen. But the odds are there are a number of running backs that will get drafted ahead of Sermon that forces Sermon into a dangerous territory of unknown landing spots, which most times are going to be cloudy and not as great as everybody had hoped.
And really, I mean, the hype is on the top three guys. You already talked about it. Najee, Travis Etienne, and Javonta Williams. Those are guys who probably will be starters. Do you think there's a good chance that nobody besides those guys gets drafted in the top 2 rounds?
Yeah, there's always that chance with running backs these days. I think Etienne and Harris have a shot at both going in the first round, which will feel unusual because we barely got a running back drafted in the first round last year. So it was the last pick.
Yep.
Of the Chiefs. So, it's tough to know. It's just the running back is devalued so much and everybody's in unison on it. Like it'd be different if like 4 or 5 teams didn't feel that way. They could kind of it's kind of like in a league where you make a big trade and it triggers a whole bunch of other trades. But if no one's trading, no one trades. And so I feel like it's the same way with the NFL. No one's drafting running backs, so no one's going to budge and you're just going to see people fall. But, I think Javonta Williams, Etienne, and Najee all go in the top 50. And then past that, man, it's guesswork. It's like no one knows. Anybody that says that they know, they're making a guess, and that's fun. But I just, even my 3 running backs going in the top 50s, like guesswork. But, it's just my educated guess on how many, because Etienne is ranked by some teams as the number 1 running back, I can't imagine him falling much past the first 10 picks in round 2. And because Javonta Williams is talked about as potentially being the second best running back, and some might say the first, I feel like that same thing's going to happen where there's only so far he's going to fall. Past that, Carter could go in the 4th round or the 3rd round, or the 2nd. Like you don't know. Sermon could go in round 2 or round 4. One of those 2 could get undrafted. Like it's so crazy, it's and the other running backs we might go over in a second. It's like it gets even cloudier. Whether it's going to be like even Gainwell, man. Like I don't know where teams view him. I don't know how teams see Gainwell and his potential as a starting running back. He's 191, I believe is his weight, 5'11". Tough to know if anybody's going to rank him as the 4th or 3rd or 5th ranked running back, but some people in fantasy have him around that range, and it's hard to know where to put him when you don't know where teams view him.
Yep. Yeah, it's weird how in the NFL running backs are like QBs in a 1 QB fantasy league where it's just they just keep getting pushed. Nobody cares about them. It's super weird to me, but shortest lifespan out of any position. So I guess it makes sense. Now we broke down 6 players. I want to hear just 4 names, 4 guys that you really like. Yeah, I mean, it's all going to be about landing spot, but just 4 guys that you're kind of high on outside of these 6 that you mentioned already.
I wish there was a way to like. I honestly almost hesitate to even do it because I feel like it's at some point it's literally going to be so much off base of what really happens, like whether it's Herbert or God, who would I even, because I'm putting Hubbard in there. A lot of people wouldn't put Hubbard in there. But
and this is it's just for fun. That's another thing.
No, I know. I just but like even a guy like I'm trying to even evaluate some of these guys and say, what kind of frame does he have? Like Elijah Mitchell.
What do you think? What do you think of Gainwell?
So yeah, and I mentioned him. Gainwell, I wonder if he's going to be big enough, because I don't know that I see him holding up. I don't view him like an Alvin Kamara necessarily, and at 191, it's hard to envision a team investing in him to be their full-time guy. He shared the backfield with Antonio Gibson, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of buzz around him lately, and I've seen him go in like the top 3 or 4 in some rookie only mock drafts, and some people hyping him up pretty big. But it's pretty hard. He's more of like a scat back. I don't know that I'd feel, and that's how I feel about a lot of these other running backs. I feel like none of them are going to really land. You never know. None of them are probably going to land in a really ideal spot. But Gainwell in the right situation, I suppose, could be decent. Like if he landed behind, like, let's say a guy that had no backup like Barkley, or landed in a situation like in Carolina, let's say, to back up Christian McCaffrey, and they need another, that would be an ideal spot for any one of these guys. But Gainwell is probably going to be, I'd say, the consensus next guy up from after the guys that we've listed. And some people have him above Hubbard. When I say Chuba Hubbard is one of my favorite running backs in this draft class, or my favorite running back, not necessarily my number 1 ranked running back, because again, I don't know that he's going to be believed in. Most people have Gainwell ahead of Chuba Hubbard, and I get a lot of pushback on the Chuba Hubbard ranking.
Yeah, I've been seeing that too, and I guess it just depends on who you ask. Because Gainwell, I mean, I like him. I like seeing everything that I saw on tape, but yeah, like you said, scat back, and if you get that label, that's a dirty word. It's almost like game manager for a QB. It's like you're going to be just a piece. You'll never get too much put on you. And I'm curious to see where he goes for sure.
I'm trying to think of like the next guy up that I would like at the running back position. And it's like, it's just so hard to even differentiate some of these guys after Gainwell. If we're talking, I mean, Jamar Jefferson's probably the next guy up, I would say.
Okay.
If I had to guess, and let me pull up some of his stats too, because he's probably not a guy a lot of people even know about, or even see it mock drafted high at all. But he's 5'10", 217. So the thing I like about him, if we're going to go that deep, is that he has the frame that you typically want to see out of a starting running back at the NFL level, because he's above 215. He's not like 6'2", but he's not 5'8", so he's like about 5'10", 5'11". A lot of people are kind of hyped about him in very quiet circles. He's not a very, widely known and widely talked about player, but I think he's young. Let's see, what were some of the highlights on him that I had? Jefferson, right, 143 yards per game, career highs per attempt 6.5. 133 carries and 858 rushing yards during weeks 10 through 16 of the college season, his entire 2020 season. Solid prospect. I think Elijah Mitchell, similar frame, 215, 5'10", 215. So these would be like my 2 guys that I think could climb or could land as backups to running backs that maybe are injury prone and find their way into a lineup and be like a potential James Robinson. Like, I'm not calling either James Robinson, but potential out of nowhere, because no one's going to have high expectations with their landing spots. I really don't think either one, anybody past like Hubbard and Sermon and maybe Gainwell. Gainwell's probably in this category too, where people have any expectation of them. In deep dynasty, they'll draft them. But that's I guess about where I would where I would stop and say, like, it's after Mitchell and after Jefferson, Hubbard. That puts us at about 10, right?
Yeah.
We have
covered
Mitchell, Jefferson, Carter, and Sermon, and then on up is Hubbard and my other guys.
Yeah, then it starts getting pretty far down in the weeds, and I'm excited to hear the way that you broke them down. I've been seeing a bunch of lists all over the place, so I've only been into Dynasty since last year, 2020, because of COVID. Honestly, that was the reason why I got heavy into Dynasty. So I'm just having a fun time picking people's brains here in the process, hearing the why behind the ranks are out there. So I appreciate you spending some time.
This wide receiver class, Kyle Pitts, and the quarterbacks are where it's at, though, man. This draft class is arguably going to be one of the best we've seen in a handful of years, if not a decade, and for a handful of years in the future. And it all is because of those other positions, the non-running back positions, which is usually when you have a class, especially when we're talking about it from a fantasy perspective, that is considered to be the best draft class. It has a couple of those big running backs. We will get one, maybe two, and I believe Etienne will be the best from this draft class that helps vault this draft class above others. But it's those wide receivers. Like, you have some people that argue Waddle's better than both Devonta Smith and Jamar Chase. I don't believe that, but I think that indicates that there are three, in most people's minds, three wide receivers that could be elite from this draft class. And there's Bateman, there's a lot of other people that love Moore, Rondell Moore, could be Tyreek Hill of the future. Like, there's a lot of other good wide receivers that can still be very good. Like maybe a Justin Jefferson's hiding in that second group. I wouldn't put it past this wide receiver class at all. But Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith, who I think will translate. I disagree with anybody that says he's too small. These two guys have top 1 to 5 wide receiver potential. Not yet as rookies. One of them could, like Jefferson, prove that. And I think Jefferson's kind of an outlier, but kind of a harbinger of things to come in terms of the ready-made players that come out of college these days. They're just built different. They're learning things at a younger age. They're honing in on their craft at a younger age. They're picking their positions and what they want to do at the NFL level earlier, and they're just honing in on those skills earlier. And the quarterbacks are better, and that helps wide receivers be better. It's just like a Jamar Chase comes in, and Jamar Chase will dominate immediately. Devonta Smith, I think, will do very, very well. They both, where they go will be a big factor. But I've been saying this since January, and it got a ton of pushback until recently because of the news that's been breaking. But I think Cincinnati drafts Jamar Chase and pairs back Burrow and Chase together, and everybody's been screaming O-line, O-line, O-line. But what people don't realize is how impactful a Jamar Chase drafting is to that O-line. Not directly, but indirectly. Like you're going to see different defenses when you have Jamar Chase commanding double coverage on the outside. You're not going to be able to line up the same way as a defense and come in and sack Burrow over and over when you have a Jamar Chase stretching the field like a beast. Yeah. So my argument since January, and I've literally been in arguments with people on like Clubhouse, like civil ones, but over and over and over, that Jamar Chase impacts the offensive line more than drafting an offensive lineman. And partly because you're not going to not address the offensive line. You're going and getting an offensive line in the second round, third round, wherever you're going to coach that up or whatever. So the question becomes, is Jamar Chase and that option that you can coach up going to help that offensive line more than the offensive lineman in not getting that weapon? Like if he can't deliver the football in dominating fashion and move the football down the field and move the chains, he's not going to get room, and it's not going to matter who's blocking. He's still going to get sacked and take more, hits and rushes. It was like the worst in the league in terms of being pressured. And a lot of that's because he can't, get the ball out quick enough, because T. Higgins will be good. Make no mistake about it. But T. Higgins, I think, will become that Cortland Sutton type player. Yeah. If Jamar Chase ends up getting drafted to the Bengals, he'll be like Sutton was going to be a wide receiver one, now can't because of Jerry Jeudy, in my opinion. I think the same thing will kind of happen to Higgins. Now, if the Bengals draft an offensive lineman, T. Higgins does have a place in the lower end of the wide receiver ones potentially in 2021. So I think T. Higgins will develop.
Yeah, I can agree with that. What up, Justin's going down. I feel like with the Bengals, just where they are, it's not like they're going to get Sewell. And I feel like, are you going to like jump up for an offensive lineman to get someone there and like overpay for someone, or pull the trigger on someone like Jamar Chase, who literally who's already played with Burrow and they both like killed it. So I can get behind that. That's someone who's worth jumping for.
He's generational. He's generational. Like,
oh, for sure.
You know, you could take the lineman. You can use the position of need argument, and I'm not saying it's awful or that it's a dumb approach, but by far, the most impacting player to that offense to help the offensive line to keep Burrow not only upright, but moving the football down the field and into the end zone is the ultimate goal. And Jamar Chase does that with the other options that they can, you know, coach up or draft into for the offensive line. You're not just stuck not getting an offensive lineman. You have a draft that you're partaking in. You know, everyone acts like if they pass on the offensive lineman with that first round pick, that early pick, they aren't going to get a lineman. They're not going to address the offensive line. That's not true. Like it's kind of like just saying, you know, like when you're drafting a quarterback early or something, that argument, like you're not drafting a running back or wide receiver eventually. You got to compare apples to apples. You took a Mahomes early at 3.1 and people are laughing at you. And what wide receiver are you getting? My argument last year was you're getting a DK or an AJ Brown with Mahomes, and everyone's going to be like, oh yeah, well, I got this wide receiver in the second round. Well, I believe in DK and AJ Brown. They're going to be as good as your wide receiver here in the second round. But guess what? Your quarterback won't be as good as my Mahomes that you're getting back. And I could go both ways. I'm not saying I always draft quarterback early. I just defend it for people that like to use that approach. But this is the same thing. Chase an offensive lineman versus offensive lineman and who you're going to get for a wide receiver doesn't even come close in my mind.
Hell yeah. One thing that I've been seeing, you could tell me because you've been scouting guys a lot longer than I have because I don't really scout them. It seems like these wide receivers, their route trees that they're coming up with right now and just being a pure route runners seems like it's so much better than 10 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, rookie wide receivers came in like when Larry Fitzgerald came in, let's say, you know, that was some years ago. These guys got like 804 or 5, and that was all you could ever expect out of a rookie wide receiver. Now, Justin Jefferson, 1,400 yards is unbelievable. I'm not saying to expect that, but it's definitely not like out of the question anymore. And if anybody's going to catch 12 TDs and 1,100 yards or 1,200 yards as a rookie, it's going to be Chase or Smith, and they could definitely do it. Like I could see it happening.
Oh yeah, Justin says Jamar Chase catches a TD or a first down. I'll take that over any lineman. There we go. That's for sure. They need to make some moves for their fans right now. And the first round lineman that they're reaching for isn't going to be that move. Figure out how to trade for one or get a free agent or something. Draft a guy in the second. I'm all for that.
Yeah, and Lawrence and Wilson are another topic, man. Like I just see these guys head and shoulders above the rest. I'm not saying that Lance or Fields couldn't be Justin Herbert like, or I'm sorry, no, I mean Jalen Hurts like Justin Herbert and Burrow are kind of like the Wilson and Lawrence, you know, of this class. I think they might be better. The Jalen Hurts equates to the Fields or Lance, in my opinion, and that's still good. Like Hurts has a potential. I'm not saying anybody should expect it, but he has the potential to be a 6 to 10 fantasy quarterback with the running and everything. So Fields and Lance could get there, but that's still another level below where Wilson and Lawrence are, in my opinion. Like I did a poll on my Twitter, and I haven't looked at it lately, but the first 2 hours into it had like, you know, about 100 votes or something. And it was Burrow and Herbert in a Dynasty 2 QB Dynasty startup, Burrow and Herbert, or Lawrence and Wilson. And I thought Burrow and Herbert would win, but it was like 92% of the 100 votes in that first hour or two. And I was
Crazy.
like, wow, like that's, to me, that's a little shocking because I thought there'd be some people, especially with dynasty hats on, that are like, no, I really, really like where Wilson and Lawrence are landing. I really like their potential long-term. I think both could be top. The problem is we're running out of top 5 spots because there's so many good quarterbacks. That's why I say that the difference between 5 and 7 might be like 15, 20 points. So we really have like 7 quarterbacks fighting for these top 5 spots.
Yeah.
But, both could be top 5 quarterbacks, in my opinion. I really, really believe that about Wilson and Lawrence. Lawrence is the real deal. Dude's got flow and just a presence about him that feels Peyton Manning like. I think Wilson has a touch of a couple different quarterback comparisons, but feels a little Mahomes like with his ability to kind of magically move around and make things happen and just get things done. Like he's just kind of like a magician, and he looks so young, and that makes him look small for whatever reason. The dude's 6'2" or 6'3". Like he's not a small guy. He just looks like it because he looks like he's like 18 years old, So,
I thought he looked like he was 15. I think you're giving him
and that makes him look smaller, You just can't, the face he has, you can't picture that being a 6'2" or 6'3" person. So, I've seen comments where like, no, he looks too small. He's not small at all. He's 6'2", 6'3". He's fine.
Just got that baby face.
Yeah.
There we go. Give me money. I'm excited for any running back to land with Arizona or Atlanta, especially with now they got Arthur Smith and is going to enforce the run one way or another.
Yeah, Arizona is interesting because they, they're still getting a feel for how they want to deploy that offense in general. Drake, they could have used a whole hell of a lot more in the passing game and didn't, and I don't know why. I don't know if it had to do with Kyler or if it had to do with the offseason or whatever. So if they drafted Chuba Hubbard, I'm halfway really excited and halfway worried that we're going to see some kind of weird, fantasy split like we saw with Drake and Edmonds didn't really eat into Drake's value. It was that it was like Clyde. There's a lot of weird circumstances and almost like unfair to the fantasy owner, unfair unfoldings of how things shaped out and flow of game and weird lack of PPR work mixed with very productive rushing and touchdown production, making for an average performance. It's like, Drake was frustrating because he felt like he was doing.
Uh-oh. Smitty, did I lose you? Fuck.
I think we'll see.
Dang it. Okay. Well, we'll see if he hops back on. Dang it. Technical difficulties. Oh, here we go. Must be some internet connectivity going down. Let me see. I'm just going to pack my bowl real quick and smoke for a second. And so we can finish this up with Schmidt. Oh, there he is.
How about now?
There we go. Yep, you're good.
I don't know if it was mine or yours or YouTube or whatever. I show I'm good, but who knows? Are we still live?
Yep. We're okay. Good. I think that Arizona's play calling last year was just garbage all around. There's just so many times where I was just so baffled on why they would keep running the same stupid play that doesn't seem to work. So I would be excited to see a guy like Chuba go to Arizona, but I totally understand what you mean of being like nervous because I don't know what was up with their play calling.
It just feels like it's just frustrating, like I was saying. I think Drake was top 5 or 6 in rushing yards and touchdowns at certain points in the year. And you're like, but why is he ranked 18th in running backs? It was PPR, and it was just weird situation. So hopefully that doesn't translate into this, whatever running back takes over. I think AJ Dillon, the Chase Edmonds situation smells a lot like AJ Dillon, where everyone's hyped and then disappointed. And I think there's no way the Cardinals don't address the running back position. And sure, they say we love Chase Edmonds. Gruden says he loves his fourth running back as much as he loves his quarterback. Coaches are going to answer questions that they're asked, like, "Hey, do you love Chase Edmonds?" No. They're not going to do that. It's, he's awesome. He could carry our whole team. He's great. Okay, let's draft Chuba Hubbard. Like, who knows what they're going to do? But the Sermon, they could draft Sermon. Like, that's what I was saying earlier. Sermon could fall anywhere. And imagine if he fell to the Cardinals. That would be pretty exciting. He'd be a really good running back between the tackles. He's very different than Chase Edmonds. If I'm the Cardinals, I probably do draft a between the tackles guy. Sermon would probably fit the bill to fall to the right spot. And imagine feeding Sermon 15 carries a game. That would open up the pass even more. It'd help Kyler Murray a lot develop. He can't see over the line, so he's got to get to the outside and do his thing, but he'll become more accurate. And Kyler's exciting, but he's also scary. And there was talk here in Arizona, very rumor based. Let me emphasize, rumor based, not coming from the team. So many people freaked out when I did this YouTube video on this update, but the rumor is on high ranking websites and radio shows in the Valley here that the Cardinals should trade, and this is before all the news broke on Watson, but should trade Kyler and a first rounder for Deshaun Watson, and that it was something that should get kicked around. And most people were like, Kyler is already there. Kyler's as good. Why would you do that? That would be stupid. But the more you look at it and break it down prior to the news that broke out on Watson, it would have been a solid move to pair Hopkins back up with Watson. They're already familiar. Watson's just on a different level right now. Not that Kyler can't get there, but watching Kyler, he has a tough time staying in the pocket. He has a tough time making certain throws and a tough time being clutch in certain situations. But I think he can develop, and a Sermon would definitely help the offense a lot.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what Arizona does because they have a lot of potential. They definitely didn't live up to it. At certain times they did, but I feel like Kyler, the way that their running game was going, like the play action never worked. So if they can get someone in there to make the play action work, then we might see a different offense.
Yeah. Thanks, Stu.
Thanks, Stu, for the super chat. Appreciate you. All right. Well, Smitty, I appreciate you spending your time. I'll let you go. I won't keep you too much longer, but I appreciate you breaking down all these rookies. Appreciate you sharing the come up. And I appreciate your attitude of only competing with yourself, because initially, everybody was competition to me in 2020. That was my mindset. And then I've totally switched from that, realizing that there's a lot of people in this industry who do it for fun, who don't even care about trying to turn it into a business or anything. And now I'm of that mindset. I'm in my own lane. I want to network with as many people as possible, but the only competition is myself. So I appreciate you saying that earlier.
And not to like try and put put a damper on the pipe dream too, because you can definitely get there. Anybody can get there. I mean, you could go. I mean, it depends on the platform, but like for example, you could go on. Not that TikTok pays the bills, believe it or not. People are so I think misguided on like what person looks like they're full time, or what person's like. Just because you have 100,000 followers on IG doesn't mean you're making any money. You have to know what you're doing on all other different levels and have different things, products and stuff like that. So. A lot of people think that they see someone with 20K on IG, they're like, oh my God, they must do this for a living. It's like not even close. Like, it's a different thing than people think, a different monster to be bringing in revenue and doing it full time. But not to put a damper on the potential, but not very, very few people in the industry are doing this on a full time basis. Very few. And so, people put up a facade about it too, like, oh, I do this full time, and they don't. It's good to be honest and be yourself during your journey too, because people like that. Like a lot of your followers in here probably appreciate that you're on the up and coming, radar versus pretending you're, already there, it gives off a different feel. And there's a personality that you have that's different with your mindset now and your honesty about it versus if you just came out and pretended fronting, oh, I do this full. It changes everything about you. So honesty, people knowing your journey, knowing your story is a good thing. Like even I'm still a very, very small fish in a big pond in the video world. Like I'm not even close to big time in many ways on that front. So like, my follow, I don't fake that with my followers either. And they love that they're a part of something from the ground up, and they know that it's going to get big and we're going to do huge things and they're going to be a part of it from day one. And so, it's a cool thing. And there's nothing wrong with being honest about it, but work really hard. Don't focus so much on everybody, and understand that the sliver that you need to slice off of the big pie is, the pie is huge. There's enough to go around. All you got to do is get a little piece of it and you're going to be fine. It's just takes time, hard work, and falling into a niche that works for you, finding your own voice. And if it's going to work, like I said, it's going to work. Your worst case scenario is you have this awesome side hustle that probably still brings in good income, and you enjoy it and you have a passion about it. And that's like your worst case scenario, so just think of it that way. Like there's nothing you can lose. Just be you and see what happens.
Yep. And he's speaking to everybody else, because even for someone like me, I am full-time. Full-time money isn't coming in, but I'm a hustler, and we're going to figure out how to make all this work, and that is going down. And Eric, thanks for reminding me, promote your Patreon more, jack up those subscribers, go get signed up, fantasyfootballhustler.com. Patreon is the top link. That's all I do is interact with the fantasy community, do these videos. I'm really appreciating everybody who's been around. Will, appreciate you for being here. Give me money. Appreciate you, bro. Stu, appreciate you. All right, Smitty. I'm sure everybody here already knows where to find you, but please feel free to plug anything you want.
Yeah. So I don't know if I can change cameras here real quick. Let me see if I can. Hold on. Bear with me. So here's the studio.
Nice.
And this is where the show is going to be. So Tuesdays and Thursdays. I don't know if you can still hear me. Let me switch.
You're good.
Let me switch mics real quick.
And you're good. I can hear you if you can hear me.
Now you can hear me good, right?
Yep.
So we're not live, but we're in the spot where we'll be live Tuesdays and Thursdays here on the fantasyfootballshow.com. That's where they can find me, or go to smitty1.com. But every Tuesday and Thursday, 4 p.m., 7 p.m. Eastern. And it's just, man, it's a blast. Like I did my first show on Tuesday, yesterday, and it flew by, and it's just going to get better and better, man. So this is where I'll be. You'll see me right here in the command center. Appreciate you having me on.
Hell yeah, man. Appreciate you spending your time, and appreciate the hustle that you're talking about here, because that's all I do. That's why the Fantasy Football Hustler is my name. Out of all these goofy ass names that I was thinking about initially, the Hustler fits me, and that's all I'm going to do is keep hustling.
Well, keep doing it, bro. And yeah, I'll well, you're on Instagram? Yep. Okay. I'll look you up on, yeah. Or no, yeah. I mean, we DM'd on Instagram, but your show, or is that your actual handle for your show? I'm sorry. I gotta look into that. Check out your Instagram content more. I'm so busy, man. I don't know. Sometimes I don't know if I'm getting DM'd from like a personal account or whatever, but I got to look at your hustle. I found you on, or we talked on Clubhouse, right?
Yep. That's where we
started talking. Okay. Yeah. I'm on Clubhouse a lot too. And I've been putting in more time on that. I've been putting a lot of time on that. And that's kind of a fun little platform to grow on and help people. And I think we're talking about like how to build your channel and build all that, right? Yeah. So yeah, so that's a really good place to do that. So you'll find me over there too, and maybe together we can help some other people that are starting out, because you have good insight on, because you're freshly there, building this thing up. And so, you have as much insight as anybody to talk about it, because, you're proof that you're on your way. This is what you decided to do. This is what you've learned as you've, rolled into your first year. This is your first full year. Did you do half of a year last year?
First full year of content. Yeah. So I got August was when I started doing more videos and stuff and started getting full force just right as the season started. As far as like giving advice and stuff, I started a fantasy football advice group on Facebook like 6 years ago, and there's like almost 19,000 people in there. So it was mostly just text and, answer and start and sit questions, just through social media. And then now kind of spawned into this.
How is that still? Because Facebook is just like falling flat. Like, is there engagement in there still, or how is that group?
Fuck yeah, man. I mean, I know that a lot of groups on Facebook, like just fantasy groups in general, they die as soon as the season's over. We're a bigger group. I make sure to keep doing things to keep it active. So there's a lot of Tom Brady posts and stuff that happens because everybody fucking loves talking about Tom Brady. And I like poking the bear a little bit, just calling him the greatest game manager of all time. And so little things like that just kind of keep it going. And the Facebook group for like my live streams, when I do question and answer live streams, that was the biggest contributor to me growing on YouTube because I would do the live streams in there and I would just keep telling everybody, go subscribe on YouTube while you're listening to this.
Yeah. Well, hit me up. And maybe we'll do something. Maybe we'll do some kind of like test run, one-off little sideshow in the Facebook world or something like that in that community. That might be a fun little thing to try out. Because Facebook, Facebook is something I need to do a little more, but like I Twitter, Facebook, I just haven't had time to, because Instagram popped for me so quickly and YouTube that I put all my energy into that. And so, Instagram, how many followers you got on Instagram?
I think like 800. So Instagram's like one of my smallest platform.
Yeah, it's hard. It's I can definitely DM you and share some insight on how to grow on there. But it's, don't feel like if one platform if one works for you better than the other. I'm not saying don't ignore another one, but like if you've got one that's working, you only got so much time. You're going to dilute something. So keep grinding with what works. But I'll reach out to you and we'll try and do something on Facebook because I need to get on Facebook, and that may be a fun thing for our communities to maybe we come up with some little tiny once a week little show or something.
Yeah, for sure. And even right now we're streaming into Facebook on a couple different pages on Facebook into the group. We're streaming on YouTube and Twitter and Twitch. So yeah, I make sure to stream into everywhere that I can to get as many eyeballs.
Yeah.
What about the Sports Me app? Have you heard about that yet?
Yeah, they've reached out to me a couple times, and I let me switch here because I feel weird talking to you from so far away. I just it comes down to the time that I have, man. Because like I literally like I have Chick-fil-A that's sitting out in the kitchen that I brought home that I haven't even eaten yet. Like it's like that's how my life is. Like I have no extra time at all to even figure out how to attack another platform I'm not like die hard on. I know TikTok is a good platform for organic growth, but it also isn't something that like it's the same environment. Like I don't know if you ever, are you on TikTok?
Yeah.
And it's like, you what?
Not too active.
Yeah, because I mean, like you post something, like I'll post something like AJ Brown top 5 wide receiver, and I'll be like, "You idiot! It's Amari Cooper, moron!" And it's like it's just a bunch of like keyboard tough guys that I think TikTok will eventually become the Instagram. So like building on it's a smart thing because when it does transition over to being a valuable place to advertise or funnel people into your product, you'll have a good foothold because I'll wait, Instagram, I don't need to post a picture, that's dumb. Instagram after a certain point turned into a video platform, turned into a great place, stories, everything to be a full-blown, like show on. And then once it became that, it was a little late to come in and try and get a foothold. So it's always smart to get the foothold, but I find that TikTok's just kind of like a strange, like people with 100, like there are people with like 100, 200,000 followers on TikTok that just, they don't even really provide that much value on their channel. It's like, let's go over the top 5 all-time quarterbacks. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. And that's it. Like, there's no value at all. There's like, you didn't get anything from it. They get all these people that say, shout me out, shout me out, shout me out. Like, TikTok's just like a wild west, man. And there's no sense, rhyme, or reason to anything. And I think people equate, 20, they just want 20,000 followers or 50,000 somewhere. They don't care where it is. TikTok, Instagram. Well, let me tell you, it's important. It's important where you have them. It's important where you have them. Having, 10,000 YouTube followers is like equivalent to having like 100 or 200K Instagram followers. Like, there's a big difference between those different subsets of people. Having 100K TikTok followers would feel good. Like, you'd have some clout or some like a nice thing to show off. Like, I got 100,000 TikTok followers, but what are you getting out of them? Like, eventually it will be a good thing to have. Like, once TikTok transforms into an older crowd, and it is every day, but right now it's a lot. It's a lot of screaming and yelling at you. It feels a little bit like the Reddit forums. If you post something on Reddit, have you ever posted a video on Reddit? Like, hey, watch my video.
No, I have not.
You idiot! What are you doing in here? It's like, there's certain places that are, not, I've grown my brand on Instagram. I've grown my brand on YouTube. And I think that's where people go wrong, is they just try and show up and just start forcing their brand on people, like in the Instagram world or whatever. So you got to like cultivate it within that community. You got to understand the community. And TikTok, maybe it is yelling. Maybe I just go in there and go, what are you looking at? And then I blow up. And it's like, I got a bunch of people yell at me. I yell at them. Fantastic little 100K family. I don't know. But, some of my most, like, to give you an example, my most views on TikTok, I think I have a video that has like 300,000 views or something on TikTok. And it's of me dropping an iPad. And the iPad was already broken. So I don't know if you remember my Todd Gurley video where I smashed it with a hammer. So it's that iPad. It's already smashed. So I turn it upside down and I go, let me show you guys how to use both and I drop the iPad and it smashes. It's got 300 or something thousand views. And every single comment is, it was already broken. I saw it. He's lying. And it's like, that's what generated all the views. Are those valuable views? Are those people loving? Do they want to buy my product? Do they want to follow me and listen to all my podcasts? Where's this guy at? I got to listen to him on an audio pod. Like, it's such a different, like, what are you getting out of those views? Yeah. Maybe ad dollars. Sure. So that could be the thing. And once you get to that point, and it takes a little while to get to that point where you have to have so many views, you have to have there's certain criteria. And then you get into the TikTok creator fund. And then once you get a certain amount of views, you get paid like that way. Yeah. So, there is an advantage to it, but you got to put in a lot of time for that too. And are you taking away from something else? So you just got to kind of weigh it all out, man. Do what you can. You're doing the right things, and all, be available if you ever have any questions, and we'll jump into some clubhouse rooms and talk about brand building and stuff like that.
Hell yeah, that's what I'm all about. I'm all about the business side of things too, especially right now, because that regular season grind is real. I embraced it last year. Yeah, and there's burnout too. You gotta be careful, because you definitely are gonna face that if you're not smart about it. It's natural. I've burned out several times, where I thought, oh my God, I did a couple 24-hour live streams, and those aren't healthy. I might want to add. Because you get through that and you're like, oh my God, I'm never going live again. I did 2 of those. I had the flu during one of them, and it was not good. It was not good. Nor was it as productive as like a normal 2-hour live stream. So sometimes more isn't better. I realized that during some of my question and answer live streams. Some of them lasted like up to 5 hours. I'm like, damn, I should have just stopped 2 hours ago and then just did another one tomorrow or something. Or you got to know when to quit on it. But hey, man, I'm gonna go grab that Chick-fil-A, pop it in the microwave, and chow that down before it's already dinner time. Appreciate you having me on, and we'll hook up. I'm serious. We can maybe do something in a Facebook group somewhere, some kind of like internal show.
you know, if you know, I know I already said I don't have a lot of time, but we could figure something out. Like, you know, even if it's a quick 10-minute thing, it'd be pretty cool. All right, man.
Hell yeah. All right. I'll see you later. And everybody, thanks for hanging out. Got another show tomorrow and got a bunch of cool shows coming next week. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Go follow on all podcasts. Peace out, everybody.
Later, guys. Later, GMM. Later, Stu.
You ready, Jerry? I'm ready. Just want to make sure you're ready, brother. Show me the money.
Every day I'm hustling. Every day I'm hustling. Every day I'm hustling.
Put my shoes on, you wouldn't last a mile. Summertime, wintertime, I'm on the grind. Yeah, I got the ring, I'm the champ, I'm the Judy of the lamb.
This is the gift I was given, so I just live by my hustle.
It's all about the Benjamins, baby. Yeah. It's all about the Benjamins, baby. Yeah. It's all about the Benjamins, baby.
Yeah, I need me put in my pocket. It don't make sense, but don't make a profit. So I hustle, ladies and homies. Make money, money.
Hold out here for a pill. When he tryna get this money for the real.
I want to find a thing to save my life, so I hustle.
It ain't over for me. No, it ain't over for me.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.